It's all part of the deal. You can see I've slid my green screen over. We're live. It's 11:50. I slid the green screen over so you can see all the wonderful trophies and things back there. But today we're going to talk about Holley high rams and Holley mid rises. You could call it a mid ram if you want, but the mid rise intake manifold, which is kind of cool because the high ram also, Holley did a good job on these. They made them kind of convertible. So on the high ram, we stay with the same runner length all the time. We just have different lids that we can put on. We can put on a single EFI throttle body, and we can put on a lid to run two carburetors, two 4150s, two dominators. They have a blank one where you can make your own thing, where the sky's the limit of all these things you can run. So it's kind of convertible. And the mid-rise is a similar thing. You look at the photo I have up in the thumbnail, you can see that lower manifold can be run as a dual quad manifold for carburetors, a dual quad manifold for 4150 4-hole throttle bodies, or they have an intermediate piece that basically adds runner length and kind of an entry that now it has the very common, flange, just like the high ram, where you can then put all the lids on that you want from the high ram for that engine family. So again, you can run a single inlet, a 92 or a 105. You can run two 4150s, two carburetors on it. You can have a blank one that you can run dual inlets. However you want to trick it out, you could certainly do that. In this comparison, I ran a test on a 383 stroker. It's a good motor. I can take a look at. So it's a 383 stroker. Let's take a look here and see. It was a 5.3 block, 4.853, same thing. We just bored it out. We went to 3905 and put a 4-inch crank in it, which gave us 383 cubic inches. It was a JE forged piston and scat rods. It was a 6125 rod. And the JE pistons were a 10cc dish, so there's a slight dish in it. We had a good size cam, and it was a Brian Tooley cam. It was a stage 3 NA cam back then. I think that these are the specs on it. 630, 615 lift split, 231, 244 degree duration split, 112.5 degree lobe separation angle. It did well. It had ported trick flow heads on it, or TEA, total engine airflow, factory 706 heads on it. We ran it with a stock truck intake manifold and an AccuFab throttle body, just a throttle body that was sized for that inlet. We could have just as well run a stock one, although the AccuFab throttle body might flow a little bit more. And in a situation like this, where we're asking it to flow a lot more than stock, maybe the throttle body is worth a little bit there. We ran 1.75 QTP headers with collector extensions and mufflers. We had 36-pound injectors. It's showing the Holley EFI setup the way that we normally run it. And what we did was ran it first with the factory truck intake manifold. Let's face it, it's the go-to intake manifold because primarily, well, there's two reasons really. Primarily, it works very well, and it's the one that you get. So it's two things. Two things in one. It's the intake manifold that you get for free, essentially, if you buy a complete motor from a wrecking yard, and it also works well. Like I said, lots of guys have made way more than 1,000 horsepower with these things when you add turbos to them. So the factory truck manifold, pretty good. Not the best one that they make, a Trailblazer SS, the best cathedral port factory manifold. And then to get better than that, you'd have to step up to maybe a Dorman LS2, which is only about on par with the Trailblazer SS, but a fast manifold, definitely better than that. And then, like we're showing here, we have some shorter runner manifolds and different designs in the mid-rise and then the high ram that make more power than that truck manifold does. But as we often see, it's not without some trade-offs. So if we take a look at the power numbers, when we ran this thing, it made, with the factory truck manifold, it made 539 horsepower and 518 foot-pounds of torque. So it did well. It did, more than 500 foot-pounds, which is good. It would be fun to drive around in. And 540 horsepower, it did well. We then put the Holley mid-rise on it, and I put it on with the setup that I'm showing you on the thumbnail. So it's the lower manifold, the intermediate piece that has the flange on it, and then a single throttle inlet. And I think that this inlet had the 105 millimeter opening on it. And then we ran it with the mid-rise, and the mid-rise picked up a little bit of power, not a ton of peak power, 543 horsepower. But if you take a look at the curve, you guys obviously, you guys can't take a look at it because you guys can't see it, but I'll give you an idea. Basically, it only made 499 foot-pounds. So peak torque was down. In fact, torque output was down compared to the truck manifold up to 6,000 RPM. So beyond 6,000, the mid-rise did a little better, as much as say 10 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. That's because the factory truck manifold, the power output's kind of falling off. And it made peak power earlier than that. So, but the mid-rise allowed it to carry a little bit better. So it's better on the top, but less torque through most of the curve. In fact, here at 4,800, we have 497 versus 518. So you're talking about more than 20 foot-pounds of torque. So it might be something that you would notice. But the mid-rise obviously looks a lot better than a factory truck manifold. So if you wanted to do it just for that, obviously I understand that. But the interesting thing is, and this is a common misconception that we get with a lot of stuff, the information that's out there. Oh, well, the mid-rise must make more torque than the high ram. Well, that's actually not the case. So when we went to the high ram made more power than either one of them, which we would expect to do. It's a tunnel ram style manifold run with the same lid that we ran on the mid-rise. It made 561 horsepower and 505 foot-pounds of torque. So it made both more peak power and more peak torque than the mid-rise. And actually, it did a similar thing down low compared to the factory truck manifold, in that the truck manifold made more power up to 5,700. So the crossover was, down lower on the high ram. So it did better down low than the mid-rise did. And then the high ram did much better on top. In fact, at 6,500, it was up by 30 horsepower. But again, you'd have to decide, is the 5,700 to 6,700 or maybe 7,700, is that more important to you than the power that happens below that? Are you not worried about that? Is that kind of a traction issue? But here at 4,400, the high ram was down 473 foot-pounds versus 506. So it was down, down in torque a fairly good bit. And then if we get rid of our truck intake manifold, so the mid-rise did indeed make more low-speed power than the high ram did. The mid-rise made a little bit more torque up to, the crossover point was 4,750, let's call it, right between 4,700 and 4,800 RPM. And it was up by as much as, let's see here, 473 versus 484. So up by 10 foot-pounds. And then beyond that, the high ram was better. And the high ram and they were very similar from 4,700 to, let's call it 5,700. But then beyond that, certainly, past 5,700 RPM, the high ram started to do quite a bit better and started to kind of pull away. And so it made more power out on the big end, as it were. The high ram does well. It makes good power. It has, whenever we've tested it on almost anything, and it does well. I like the fact that it has the same runner length for all the cylinders, because we want them all producing the same power in the same effective RPM range, and the high ram tends to do that. It works well, but again, as we talked about yesterday on the 4.8, probably would not be my choice on the 4.8. On a 383, maybe a better choice. And then please don't fall into the misconception. I had this conversation with my friend Jimmy today about his NSX. We were talking about the old days on the 5-liter Fords, when guys would put the Hartman boxes on there, or the Downs Ford boxes, and call them, oh, these are the boost manifolds. No, they're not. They're not boost manifolds. They're just manifolds. They're just manifolds that have shorter runner length and make more power, hopefully at the top, but lose power down low. And they'll do that whether there's boost there or not. High ram, similar thing, designed more for RPM, as we saw in this comparison to a truck manifold, where it loses power down low and gains power up top. Pretty similar. Same thing happens under boost. So if you're wanting to spool up that turbo, the longer runner stock style truck, LS6, Dorman LS2, Trailblazer SS, fast manifold, if you can afford that. Tops, in my opinion, on the Cathedral Port offering, certainly from 7,000 and below. It's really, really hard to beat in terms of both peak power and average power production. So it works very, very, very well. But it's also fairly big money. So you guys have to decide whether or not that would be worth it to you. But in terms of the high ram, yes, mid-rise does make a little bit more torque, as I showed, than the high ram. The high ram definitely better on top. Both of them tend to lose a little bit compared to the truck, but I can't even count how many times people have left comments about, yeah, the truck works good, but it's super ugly. And it is. So you have to decide that. Some people, that's probably why the fabricated manifold, the sniperish kind of things, and people have been selling it because they come from offshore. People have been selling those manifolds forever. And honestly, they look great. And they do. And people buy them just for that. Yeah, I'm going to lose a little bit of power down low. Some power down low. But it looks a lot better than a truck manifold. And that's the reason I don't run a truck manifold. And how can you fault somebody for that? Because they want to pop the hood and go, oh yeah, well, that looks really cool. Because the people will say that a lot. And then not very many of them are going to say, yeah, but Richard said it loses low speed power. That's really not important. So we got a pole. Okay, would you pick a mid-rise Holley intake over a high ram for your, and I'm going to fill this in a little bit, for your street strip turbo LS? Start the poll. By the way, I want to let people know again, I have some camshafts that I'm getting rid of. I also have some Truck Norris cams. Truck Norris-esque cams. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Send me an email. I'll put my email down here. I have some Truck Norris cams and one step up above Truck Norris cams also. And then I'll have a few used whatever cams I have laying around also. So if you're interested in some inexpensive cams, like $159, please let me know. Send me information to this email. Like I said, I got you covered. Let's see. I sent you an email to buy a couple of cams, but I got no reply. I replied to every email that I got. So if I didn't reply to you, I can check my email right now. I have 0 emails that I have not answered. I respond to every one of them. I try to respond to every comment that I get. And so hopefully make sure that went through. Make sure that the email address is right if I haven't responded to you. Modular power is in the house. You should build a 5.4 based 383. Do you want to put more stroke in that? I got an 08 CTS. I want to put a L92 plus a 6L80. What does all need for this project? I don't know. I don't know about the swap part of it. I just know how to make power. Good afternoon, everyone. Formula One in Australia practice this evening. Always great fun. I know. I love listening to the Formula Ones. I go on and listen to the. I like listening to the different year Formula One engine combinations, and they have some videos where they show it like at the same track. So they show the V8s and V10s and turbo motors and all the different configurations, and so you can listen to the sound quality of them. I think my favorite is the V10 though. 4.6 to 327. Yeah, I've built 5-liter 4.6s, build stroke versions of the 4.6s. Nugget, I don't understand what your question is. 5.3 or 5.4? A 5.3 is the LS motor, and a 5.4 is the Ford modular motor. 37 watching, 13 thumbs up. Come on, there you go, BS. You get on. Tell them what's up. Rover's in the house. Low speed torque. Hey, BS, you'd be happy. I'm getting some comments from a guy that wants torque at 600 RPM or whatever. He's talking about long tube headers not working and wanting 600 horsepower or not 600 horsepower, 600 RPM, power change. So it's fun. Is the LS9 cam the best factory cam over 6,000? Have a friend that's building a drag race engine with restrictions of factory projection parts. Yeah, an LS9 or an LS7 cam will make the most power over 6,000 RPM. Is it worth putting the Truck Norris cam in a 6-liter? Yes, a Truck Norris cam will be much better than any of the factory 6-liter cams. I bet you could add runner length with spacers and gain back torque without losing much top end. On what application are you talking about? Knowing the overheads don't flow much, is there some general rules you can go by when closing the cam? When choosing the cam, consider making a very long runner intake to get torque down as low as possible. You're going to need a mild cam if you care about power way down low, but down low below 2,000 RPM, you're going to be hard pressed to change the power with camshaft. It's not just a manifold; it's a lifestyle. I'm a Holly high ram lifestyle. Does that mean I drink Mountain Dew too, and I'm extreme? Richard, hope all is well. Could you found the Vortec deal? Got my fingers crossed. You can find that intake on such. Yeah, no, I know that I have the Vortec dual plane small block Chevy manifold down there. I remember seeing it the last time I was there. Cams are $159 plus $10 shipping. Sent an email, but I got no reply. Am I doing something right? I need to buy 2 times right now, possibly a total of 3. Yeah, is it? I just, Goodfellas, I put my email back in there again, so you should be able to see that. I'm going to see what's coming through. Nope, only got YouTube. So I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything. Is there a Goodfellas? What name is that coming under? Just got off the phone with a drive shaft shop. I got to get a drive shaft fix for an IS300 manual swap. Did not learn a thing about pricing. Scary. It's a scary pricing scheme there. What motor is in the IS300? Is it all LS cams? Do you have small block Chevy stuff? No, I probably have a few odds and ends small block stuff. When I go down this time, I'll make a list of the cams that I have. Looking for a hydraulic roller, big block 540 street 10.5 to 1. If you got one, I don't know if I'll have anything that I would want to recommend for that. Probably most of the cams I would have are going to be small ones for big blocks. Overbuilt, you want a Truck Norris? Okay, send me an email. Yeah, good fellow. Yeah, send me an email. See what's going on. Pro Top Line 320 heads. Is the 5-liter in a 95 Econoline a Coyote motor? If it's a 5-liter, then not in a 95. No, that's way before the Coyote. Coyote didn't come out for another 15 years. Emailed you the other day about the LS2 with LS3 heads. Pistons have valve reliefs. Thanks for the reply. How small can I go on the LS3 head chamber before piston to valve is an issue? I don't know. Most people don't mill more than about 30 thousandths off the head, because then you start worrying about the intake fitting. If he wants 600 RPM, he needs a diesel. I agree. I don't. I want to see the 600 RPM stall converter that he has. I want a Coyote in my Econoline. I'm a fan of Coyotes. They work well. They make really, really good, like, specific power output. The V10 is the best engine. All others are great too, but not on the same level. Oh, the V10 Formula One engine. I thought you were talking about the Triton V10. I'm like, dude, I appreciate the enthusiasm. You know, maybe not the best engine ever, but certainly good. But I like the way that the V10 Formula One engines sound. even lower torque than a 4.2 liter inline six if it's 1800 peak torque. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see you maybe in a manual transmission. Although I don't know why you'd ever, like, you're idling at 600 RPM, because that's an idle speed. That's like a good idle speed for just the motor by itself without the thing being in gear. And then if it's a manual transmission, I don't know why you would slowly engage the clutch and let the thing tick over at 600 RPM and then nail the throttle. If you're doing that, you're not trying to accelerate properly, in my opinion. All the parts are in for the small block Chevy. Definitely let me know what happens when you get that all together. Commenting on today's subject. Okay. Yep. High rise. 550 has potential. The Coyote, I'm sure you're talking about the stock truck ones, are not good. And the big block Ford, yes, I will look for that as well. Do you have any small block Chevy cams? I might. Saw a dude on YouTube swapping an 8.1 into a vet. I saw that. I get a notification about the big block vet thing. That's pretty cool. That's quite an undertaking with all of the electronics that are involved in that. IS300 gas, NA2JZ. Okay, cool. 2JZ VVT. So why doesn't it have a boost? Definitely interested in seeing what you have for an LS or a big block Chevy hydraulic roller. I have LS stuff, definitely. So send me an email if you want one of those, either the Truck Norris or it's a 218, 219, kind of a best cam, similar like that. I don't know if I have any, what other ones I have. We've been talking via text. I just sent you a text. Okay. Gotcha. Covered racing is what it's coming from. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go, and I took all of my camshaft related things and saved them all. I am not seeing anything. Because anything in here that I got, I answered all of these, which there's a lot. But I answered all of these comments, and I don't see I do not see anything from you. Are you putting the email in correctly? There's only one E in B. Have you seen Cletus McFarland's Whipple Coyote? Yep. I think Suncoast makes an 800 RPM, but I don't think they make anything lower. 12s in the daily shop truck? Good. That'd be cool. Have you done anything with an L8T crank? I have not. Richard, what power level in a small block Chevy would you deem difficult to be streetable? The power level wouldn't be a streetable thing. The streetable thing would be having more to do with cam timing and compression and how drivable you want it to be. I'd like to learn more about cam intake lobe center line to bleed off compression, looking for 18 to 200 cranking compression. Why do you care about cranking compression? Why would you choose your cam based on that? What did you do to keep the transmission cool in the Mustang for the Silver State? We just drove it fast. Looking at using a T56, but I'm worried about fifth and sixth gears getting hot. We never had any problems with the factory T5. No, that we didn't run any cooler or any pump or anything like that on it. We just ran it. And that same transmission, it probably never got a fluid change in it. Ran for years and years and years, and I took it out and we ran it in our race cars, in our Bridgestone supercar and our World Challenge car. So the fifth gear was fine. Please include a list of your big block Chevy cams. Yeah, I don't know how many I have. How's our poll doing? Would you pick a midrise Holley intake over a high ram for your street strip turbo LS? Oh, 61%. Got the midrise going on. Richard, it will have after the refresh. I got a spare engine from a 94 Supra, cool, NA2JZ non-VVTi, and this will be slung into the car with a stick. The engine now is a hurt bottom end, 268,000 miles. Those should be pretty easy to find, right? I see lots of the IS and GS Lexus cars in the wrecking yard. I mean, not a lot, but I have seen a number of those 6-cylinders in there. High ram with all the torque. That's right. They do. Do they still make Ford to Chevy U-joints? I'm sure they do. .600 RPM peak torque. No, he's not talking about 600 RPM peak torque. He's just talking about making more or less torque at 600 RPM. Because the conversation was actually about long tube headers. And my comment was that every time we test long tube headers, they make more power down low than stock exhaust manifolds do. And his comment was that, yeah, but at 600 RPM, I'm like, oh, please, 600 RPM. That's not a usable acceleration RPM range. Overbuilt, your transmission sprung a leak? Or the oil pan did? They still make conversion U-joints. I would think that would be fairly common. 3-liter 2JZ in the SC400, GS300, and Super, yeah. Would a 350 with a 9-to-1 and 550 lift can be streetable? You got to tell me what the duration is. The lift has nothing to do with the streetability. But 9-to-1 is fine. And if it's a 505 lift, I'm thinking it's probably in the 220 at 50 range. Oh, the cam seals were leaking. Okay. But a cam seal leaking, there shouldn't be a whole bunch of oil flow up there, right? I think we must invent a spring-loaded connecting rod to improve low-end torque. Did that, right? Didn't they do a variable compression motor? I think it was 225-ish. That's kind of what I figured. Yeah, the combination for small block Chevys that's really popular is like a 268 cam, which is like a 224, 230 cam, if I remember right. And then if you put a decent head on it, but even a stock head is fine. 9-to-1 is fine. Pump gas, all that works really well. Goodfellas just sent it again. I'm going to see if it's in spam because I'm not seeing it. Oh, yeah, it's going to spam. Oh, I need to look at my spam thing. There's more things in here. In spam a lot. Okay. I wonder why you're going to spam. Let's see. Scrolling back. Oh, there are a couple of people here that have sent information on cams that are in my oh, there's your other one too. Wow, there's a bunch of them here. There are plenty of cams. Okay, restore to inbox. Yeah, that was like 30 of them. So okay, so I'll go through those after we finish the live feed. I can go through and answer all those. I'm convinced I need to poke the rover as much as possible, then run an oversized blower. Yes, although a smaller blower spun faster will probably be more responsive if you're really interested in low speed power. Does anybody know what's needed to do a 4R70W wide ratio gear set swap in an AOD? Or is it better just to buy a donor 4R70W? Does anybody know? Cam seal and valve covers. I just let it go a bit long. Try start it once and I heard a bearing. Oh, that's not good. I know one company had a semicircular mount on the connecting rod that as they added oil pressure to it, it would rotate and reduce compression. That's kind of cool. Kind of an offset crank journal. Inline sixes can be very loose in the bottom, and one will not know it until the rod bearing is gone. What do you think the 7.5-inch rear end would handle? You're not going to be making a ton of power with a mild small block. It should be fine. As long as you're not doing the way to hurt the rear end is not just with the amount of power that you apply. Like we put 600 horsepower with the turbo Civic into the factory transmissions and gears and stuff and ran them at the Silver State a lot. I mean, at Bonneville a lot, but we never shock loaded it. And it's the same thing for rear ends, that if you don't axle hop the thing or, shock load it with a manual trans launch and sticky tires, and then the wind up and release axle hop is just awful on it, and that wants to break rear ends. But if you just drive it around and even if you accelerate and stuff, but you're not doing that, the rear ends will last a long time. Just found out it's just as expensive if I use 2 max speeding rods turbos on my 3.9 as it would be rebuilding the Ford turbo. Yeah, that's the thing, is it's, obviously I like going to the wrecking yard and I like getting different motors and stuff from the wrecking yards, but I don't really go there for turbos anymore. The stuff out there is just so inexpensive that I just would get stuff online. Yeah, Goodfellas, that's on my end. It went to spam for some reason. The faster you spin a blower, the more heat it produces. It's a trade-off. It's not the faster that you spin the blower, it's the more pressure that you make that creates the heat. And he's wanting to make low speed power. Can't speak to Ford rear ends, but basically I got 12 to 13 passes out of my GM 7.5, 3,500 pound car, 480 wheel horsepower automatic, 275, 60 drag radials. So an automatic would be easier on it. You'd probably get one pass on a manual. General Motors builds their torque mostly through their heads and cam combination. Isn't that true of any motor? Well, BS, you're interested in a specific RPM range, right? You're not interested in what's happening at 6,000 RPM, right? So if you're interested in what's happening from 5,000 and below, then I think overspeeding the smaller blower is a better way to go. I was breaking the ring and pinion. Same thing with the G10 transmission. That's what I'm told by the Hudson boys too. They're worried about the strength of those transmissions, but I have never hurt one in any of the things that we do at Bonneville. If you're very kind, you don't shock load it. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't speed shift it. And even if we did speed shift it and break traction at Bonneville, it just breaks traction because it's on the salt. And I don't do that purposely at Bonneville. I just do easy shifts. All we're trying to do is get, vehicle speed and engine speed. That's it. We're not trying to drag race, and a lot of guys do, and that's unfortunate because they're just spinning the tires and ruining the salt there at the beginning, because there's no reason to do that. My car is 2,600 pounds on street tires with 280 wheel horsepower. I think you're probably fine. No wheel hop, light vehicles, no hard launches. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Has anybody here ever put a Corvette IRS or an Explorer or Cobra IRS in an early Z car? Chevy. I'm going to scroll back and see if I can see your other part of your comment. I don't really understanding. I'm not seeing it. At what horsepower level is it a must to leave? Oh, to leave a 10 bolt. I don't know. It's not a horsepower level though. It's a destruction level. You can destroy it with a lot less power if you abuse it, or you can save it with a lot more power if you don't do that. I know a guy who put a C3 IRS in a 280Z. Okay. 280Z is the same rear suspension as a 260 and a 240. The 280ZX is a different rear suspension. Since the 3.9 is potentially going in an off-road RX-7, my plan is to put the turbos where the headlights go. That works. We've mounted on the old HP Performance twin turbo kit. They were mounted up in the bumper, so that works good. Poll idea: what cam would Chuck Norris buy for his truck kit? I can't put that in a poll. It's got to be a yes or no question. Would Chuck Norris put a Truck Norris in his truck? Guys are going 9s on GM 8.5s in trucks. So that's got to be a heavy platform, right? Last of the real Z cars. I have to admit, I like the early ones, but I did want all the power of the later turbo stuff. Maybe one could use a 350Z suspension in it. Maybe. I have to go online and see what people are doing. I had a 260 and now a 240. I believe they also use a 230s. They do. They use R200s. It has an R180 in it now. The R200 is a pretty common upgrade. A 230 takes a little bit more work. Overbuilt. You have a 280ZX, 4.2 Vortec and an early Z. That thing's too tall. I want to put an RB in one. I like the mid-90s 300s. The twin turbo motor was good. Made a lot of power with those. Do we need to see 1,000 horsepower stock bottom end Magnum? You think that that's a possibility? I don't have BS. I don't have any Hemis right now. If you already have an LS1, how much does it cost to make it a 383? You need to buy a crank, rods, and pistons. And I don't know about labor. I have no idea what it would cost for somebody else to do that. Have you ever seen a Ford cast iron top loader 4-speed behind a Chevy engine? I think they're much stronger than a Muncie. Okay. I never have, but I would never have searched for something like that. I know with the twin GT28s, I can see a ton of power, but the most I want is 260 wheel horsepower, decent bump from a factory 175 while still playing it safe. Yes. You need 2 GT28s for that? I briefly had a 260 with a 350 in it. That was interesting. I always wanted that. In fact, I have up in my catalogs here all of the swap stuff, all the swap books. Even the official that somebody sold an official swap book on how to do that. That's a Dodge guy. I doubt the 5.9 Magnum would handle more than 700. The R180 is strong. They use it a lot in drifting and drag racing. An R180 is strong? No, I don't think anybody's ever said that. But it might be like all the other things that people just say, oh, that doesn't work. Then nobody's actually ever tried it. Would you pick a mid-rise HOLLEY intake over a higher end for your street strip turbo LS? Stay safe-ish. Yeah, I get that. I don't need twins. I just like the symmetry. That's good. Symmetry is good. I was Chevy love. I was absolutely shocked to find my C10 has a 256 rear gear. That's all of the top speed, right? Does it have a 3-speed trans or something in it? Is that why they put that gear in it? We built a 280Z with a 468 about a decade ago. So was it a 468 small block or a 468 big block? One of my crossbreeds was a 77 Chevy Love. It put a 327 in with a 9-inch rear, no bed, and Goodyear slicks. It carried the front wheels. Must have been a really good 327. A big block, you had a hard time keeping half shafts in. I would think. And the earlier 240 stuff was the axles, and I think the hubs are not as strong. Big block Chevy. Big block Chevy in the house. A single GT28 on 3.9 would more likely choke it. Yeah, what does that 3.9 make? Does it make 300 horsepower, or is it rated at less than that when it's NA? If it's a 300 horsepower motor, I would pick a 3076 probably. Fremont Raceway, several guys ran top loaders behind big blocks. Saginaws were garbage. The little Muncies were too weak, and the Rock Crushers were too rare. Dylan, your 3.9 makes 175 horsepower. But lots of torque probably, right? 175 cylinder. We ran a GT45 on that. I still think bigger than a single GT28. I think a 3076 is probably a better choice. Claiming that rear ends are weak is a defense of poor operator. Is this an operator error problem? Why not? If, I'm sure that's an if, the Windsor can make 4 digits, no reason the Magnuson or the Magnum can't. It might do that. It definitely needs more cylinder head. 220 foot-pounds. Yeah, I think I would go with a 3076 on that. A single one. It's probably easy to package then. Big block Chevy and a Z. Bet that thing twisted itself up like a pretzel. I don't think so. I remember seeing one in the back hatch of a Vega. That was way back though. This is a small block Chevy gateway to the LS. They're all good. Yeah, Aaron, we're probably not going to do that with the kegger manifold, though. Probably something different than that. Darth, building a 351 Windsor, 399 stroker. You suggested using a 256 cam for my T76 turbo. Would a head like a Brodex ST5R be a good choice for a street sleeper using a stockish stall? Yeah, although that I didn't realize you were making it a 400-inch motor though. You probably go with a little bit more camshaft than that. And the T76 turbo, are you wanting to be like a T76 CX Racing turbo? So do you care only about power that's like less than 5,000 RPM? Eric, I will be back tonight. And would you recommend a Holley high ram? I would not recommend a Holley high ram with that small camshaft. I don't know what your power level that you're looking for. Gonna go with the 342 gear, the 4L80, because going to supercharger later. That'll be good. Boost is always better. 55% are picking the mid-rise. Yeah, it'd probably be kind of hard to fit a high ram under the hood of most things. Certainly, I doubt it's going to fit under a Mustang hood. GMC 351 V6 with a 4-speed and a low box total of 8 gears. A 260 rear axle. 260 something. I can't. Oh, 261. I was going to say I can't see it because it has a little heart insignia over there. What happens when I click that? Oh, let's see. Okay, I just hearted it, and I don't know what I did. I don't know where those went. Guy in my neighborhood has a cool ridey GMC truck with a big V6. Yeah, guys have asked about those. The 305s or something, or 706 or 505. I don't know what it is. It's something big. I've never run one. I know that. Would you pick a mid-rise Holley intake over high ram for your street strip turbo LS? Probably most guys pick the truck because it came with the motor. A high ram doesn't fit under the 4-inch cowl hood on my Fox body. Yeah, it takes a pretty fair bit. Most guys have it stick out of the hood. That's why the guys use the Brian Tooley Racing equalizer and Trinity. They fit under the hood, and then obviously Holley has the low ram, and Texas Speed has what is theirs called, a Titan or something? Titanoboa. I was watching a couple things on a guy on Joe Rogan. I showed him in the jungles wrestling an anaconda. It's a pretty good size one. And he said that he found an even bigger one. So we'll see. It's kind of cool. I always like the idea of a 400 small block in a Z. I think an aluminum LS would definitely be my choice for V8s there. No, it's not Python Cowboy, although I follow him too. His is more of the stuff in Florida. This guy was actually in the Amazon. The aluminum Edelbrock Magnums can be ported between 280 and 300 CFM without completely removing the pushrod pinch and offset rocker setup. Heading out now to drop another block off with my machinist. I found a small crack in the one we started with. Oh. Can you put SB 2.2 heads on a regular block, or does it have to be an SB 2.2 block? Are you talking about some sort of race Chevy heads or something? What's the most torque you've seen out of an NA53? The most peak torque? Is that what you're asking? Scarab 240Zs. Yeah, those were back in the day. Oh, yeah. No, I get it. The aluminum motors are on the wish list of stuff. I don't know on an NA53. $415. I'm thinking that it's in the 440 range, probably. So let's see here. Yeah, just trying to look it up really quick. I think 440 foot-pounds on the 5.3 is the highest that I've seen. Have you ever thought about doing a 2.3 liter Ford? I would like to. Yeah, I've talked about it a couple of times. I was debating doing a 383 stroker on my 89 Suburban before I settled on building a 468 big block because 468 is more. It'll work out. That block had a hard life, a boat fire, then spent a bit a bit of time at the bottom of the lake. That's a little adventure for the block, right? Does max speeding ship to Canada? I would think that they would. Are eBay heads junk? Which eBay heads are you talking about? I don't know that I've ever bought heads. If eBay sells their own heads, I don't know what you're talking about, or if somebody's selling used heads on eBay. If you're getting small block Chevy heads, look at Skip White or Airflow Research Enforcer, or Promax has good stuff. What's the most torque you've seen out of a 4.6 Ford or a 4.8 Chevy NA? I don't know. I don't know which one of those would be more. On the 4.6 valve stuff, I'm thinking it was 400 foot-pounds or so. I don't know about a 4.8 Chevy. Let's see here. What did that? Probably that crane cam thing was probably the highest one. Let's see where we were at. Three. $392 foot-pounds on the 4.8 liter. So similar to the 4.62 valve, I think, in terms of torque. Have you ever done a tall deck big block Chevy? I have not. I don't think any of the blocks I did. No, they're all standard deck. Richard, 04Z. So Z, is that a Z28? Stock LS6 with full exhaust here, cam only, and then supercharged later. What cam and springs? I have some cams for sale if you're interested. I have some pretty good street cams. I got a Truck Norris cam and and one that's a step up from that. So either one of those would be good. I don't have any links for that build. You could take a look at all the L33 stuff. The one that made the most torque is if you do a search for how to 510, that should bring you to that one, because that's the one where we ran the fast manifold on it. T76 China Special was building a 387, but had to bore the block 60 over. Yeah, I don't think that turbo is enough to support that motor. And I think the cam's too small. Like, how much power you want to make? Show you're building a supercharged motor though, right? And those peak torque numbers are happening at a fairly high RPM too. Yeah, that one's at 5,800 on the 4.8. That's not... How about a GT30 582? Yeah, that's a 500 to 600 horsepower turbo. Richard, I have two 5.3 complete truck motors if you're interested. I've got two aluminum ones right now, so I think we're pretty well set on those. And then I have one 4.8 that we're making into a 6.0. One thing I'm experimenting with is I tapped and plugged the injector ports on the OEM Gen 6 454 intake. Okay. I'm going to try and drill the sides for aftermarket fuel rails and port the intake manifold. So are you just trying to raise the injector position up higher in the runner? It's always a good idea. Can I put an 8.1 crank in a 502 block? I have no idea. The firing order is going to be different, right? And I don't know what the deck height is, if there's a difference in deck height between those two blocks. And so I don't know if you would have to, first of all, if it goes in, if the journals are all the same and the thrust is the same. I don't know about all that. I don't know. But then also do you have to change the rod length and all that? Is if the deck height's different? A couple things to consider there. 52% are picking the mid-rise. So we're getting down close to 50-50, and we're going to close our poll out there. We ended our poll there. Why is the poll not ending? There we go. Heads are $600 or $300 just for the heads. The price for two heads. That's pretty cheap. Wait, so raising the injector away from the valve is always a good idea. It seems all the factory stuff gets the injector as close to the valve as possible. But what are they trying to do? What are the OEMs trying to achieve? It's not power. They're trying to achieve other things. You will make more power if you move the injector away from the valve. If you spray the injector in the entry of the intake port, you'll make more power. Every professional form of motorsports has proven that, and I have videos up on it. In fact, I was just talking to my buddy Jimmy about that today. Oh, I need to mention that too. I'm going to wait and do that at the beginning of the next one. I'll mention it now. My buddy Jimmy is putting together a drag race event in Georgia, near Atlanta, I think he said, in the Atlanta area. I'm going to be going out there, and so I want to do some videos on people's cool cars. And so I want to, I can't remember now where I put his email address, but I will post that tonight. We'll talk about that again tonight when I do the video tonight. I'll get that information. I'll be better prepared here. I was just thinking about that at the last minute. But I want to go out there, and he's going to run his NSX. He's got the J series with a turbo on it, swapped into the NSX, and he's going to be running it, and he's got some people around there. It could be any kind of car, doesn't matter what it is. The weirder the better for me. If somebody's interested in going there and showing up, they want to get some people together and rent the track and just go out and have fun and drag race and do stuff. And so that will be fun. So if anybody's interested in that, I'll let you know tonight. I'll give you guys his email address, and you can send information to Jimmy and ask questions and figure something out, and we'll figure out a time, and then I will head out there, and we can sit out there and bench race and actually race. so it'll be a fun deal. And also, if you guys are interested in cams, please let me know. I've got some. I put my email up. I'll also put it in the description of this video. So let me know if you guys are interested, and I will see you guys all tonight.